What is next for this current England team? I mean, they started off the Six Nations well. They had an absolute disaster in the middle. They ended off the tournament really well against France, but it still just wasn't enough. In this video, we're going to be going over some of the key talking points, the key major talking points for England right now. We're going to try give some of my opinions on it and try answer a few of those really tough questions surrounding England currently. But before we do get into it, guys, if you do enjoy the content, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and please feel free to comment. I enjoy all the comments. I really appreciate all the support. But let's get right into it. So let's answer some of these really key questions. And what are these questions for England right now? Well, is Steve Borthwick the right guy for this job to lead England going forward? Did England miss out with some of their selections? Did they miss on some of their selections? Were some of their selections just not good enough? What is England's style of play currently, and what are England's current best combinations in key positions? So these are four really important questions, and in this video we're going to be trying to answer, or just try get to the bottom of what some of the answers could be to some of these questions. But before we do answer some of these questions, or even try answer some of these key questions, let's have a look at some of England's standout individual performances from the Six Nations, as well as how the team fared statistically against the other teams throughout the tournament. So quickly going over England's results, they started off with an emphatic 48-7 win over Wales. They really started off the tournament well. Everybody was saying England is the team to beat. Even I thought England was the team to beat. But then in the second game, a disappointing Calcutta Cup loss, 31 points to 20 to Scotland in Scotland. A very disappointing game. The scoreboard may be flattering England there, but I honestly believe Scotland really dominated this game. Then in the third game, they got dominated 42 points to 21 by Ireland at home after a very energetic opening 12 minutes for England. In that first game, in that Ireland game, in the first 10 minutes, I really thought England is back. They're bouncing back from last week. It's going to be a really good game for them. They look dangerous. They look ready to go. And then the whole game just swung on its head for England, and Ireland absolutely dominated England thereafter. Thereafter, they took a really, really significant 23 points to 18 loss to Italy in Rome. That loss was kind of building for England over the past few years. They've had a few close games with Italy, especially in Italy. It's always been tough. Italy's gotten a lot better, and I think that result was really building for England. So it was unfortunate from an England perspective that it happened, but a really massive positive for Italy, getting some big wins and really showing that they are a proper team nowadays. They're not the same team that lost by 80 or 90 points to New Zealand in the previous World Cup. And finally, they ended the tournament with a narrow defeat to France in the Stade de France Paris, 48 points to 46. Scoring 46 points against France is absolutely phenomenal. They'll go back and think, how on earth did they give up 48 points? But that was such a good game of rugby. The England team just came out with a different energy that game, a different style of play as well. They were playing everything they saw. They were just playing with their hearts, and it just looked like a really good old school England performance where they're actually playing with a bit of pride and playing with a bit of passion, where in the other games they just seemed a bit out of it. The energies just seemed to be lacking. I honestly don't know exactly what it was. There's some things we're going to go over that maybe uncovers some of the reasons why. But now for some of the top individual performers from England throughout the Six Nations. Henry Arundel ended third in tries scored with 4 tries. Tom Roebuck ended 8th in tries scored with 3 tries. Ben Earl with the most carries in the entire tournament with 94 carries, 16 more than Thomas Ramos in second. Thomas Ramos being in second is actually a crazy stat considering he's a fullback. Tommy Freeman 7th in meters made with 301 meters made. Ben Earl 9th with 270 meters made. Not one England player in the top 10 for offloads. Just keep that in mind. Not one England player in the top 10 for offloads throughout the tournament. Tommy Freeman ended 4th in defenders beaten with 19 defenders beaten. Not one England player in the top 10 for missed tackles, which is actually quite a good stat. You don't want to see any of your players in the top 10 for missed tackles, so that's a very, very positive stat to take from this. And just to show just how accurate Ben Spencer's kicking is, he's the only England player in the top 10 for retained kicks in the tournament with 9 of his kicks retained. That's a really good stat, and that just backs up what I think of Ben Spencer as a player. He's an absolutely phenomenal player, accurate all around the park, good crisp service, and a really good kicking game. Tommy Freeman and Ben Earl both ended up in the top 3 for most dominant contacts in the tournament, so that's both on attack and defense, so dominant carries over the advantage line and dominant hits, so that's a really good stat from both of those guys. Sam Underhill ended tied 4th in dominant tackles with 7 tackles. He is an absolute tackling machine, Sam Underhill. And to be honest, in my opinion, should be a starter in this team. Ben Earl and Tommy Freeman once again showing up on the individual stat sheet, both ending up in the top 3 with post-contact meters. Ben Earl finishing first in post-contact meters in the tournament with 111 post-contact meters. That is absolutely phenomenal. Ben Earl and Tommy Freeman are all over the show here, just showing how much better they were than their other teammates throughout the season. They were much better. Maury Itoje ended second in total jackals with 6. I think the last game really helped him. They really stepped it up in his final game. It was good to see Maury Itoje playing at his best again, because in the other games throughout the tournament, he honestly just wasn't at his best, to be honest. He wasn't a British and Irish Lions caliber player throughout the tournament. It's clear to see who England's top 2 performers are throughout the whole tournament, and by quite a distance. I mean, Ben Earl and Tommy Freeman just set themselves apart from their teammates. They were absolutely phenomenal. They were really giving everything they had. Sometimes it might have looked like they weren't as standing out as much as the others, but the stats just prove it. They were really the 2 standout players from England throughout the tournament. Now, how did England compare to the other teams in the team statistics? This is a very important one. Yes, the individual statistics matter to see which players were really standing out. But how did England do against the other 5-6 nations teams throughout the tournament? Well, they came second in tries scored with 21 tries, 4th in carries, 5th in offloads, yet second in post-contact meters. Just remember that. 5th in offloads, so second to last in offloads, but second in post-contact meters. So just remember that one. Second in try assists, 4th in defenders beaten, 1st in line-out throws won, 1st in kicks and play, not surprising because they kick a lot, but that's kind of their style and it actually does work for them when they do it well. 2nd in kicks retained, 3rd in dominant tackles, and 6th in successful tackles. Only 5th in box kicks, by the way, so they were really kicking out of hand a lot, using the fly-offs, the fullbacks, the centres as well. All the other players throughout the general play were really kicking a lot. They really do rely on their up and unders coming from the fly-halves, which they use a lot more than the other teams. 2nd in carry meters with 2,345 meters. That's a lot of meters to be carrying. 2nd in post-contact meters throughout the tournament. 6th in tackle success percentage with an average tackle success rate of 77.7%. Not a good statistic at all. 2nd in points scored, and I think the first and final game really helped to boost that stat for them, because in the first game they scored a lot of points against Wales, and in the last game scoring 46 points against France. So 2nd in points scored, that is a bit of a positive stat right there. So what can we learn from these stats? What can we learn from England's stats throughout the tournament? Now, I don't normally like to rely on stats. I like seeing things with my eye and just having an opinion based on that. But we have to kind of take these stats into account. And what can we learn from these stats? Which areas are currently weak points for England? And honestly, you can also see what are some of England's strengths right now. So some very clear weak points for England is the ability to keep the ball alive. I mean, especially with some of the most contact meters throughout the entire tournament, but some of the least amount of offloads. Post-contact meters literally give you opportunities to allow offloads to happen, but they still had the second worst offloads throughout the entire tournament. So is it because the players don't have the fundamental skill set necessary to be able to get those offloads done? Or is it that the players are playing far too one-dimensionally? Or is it just how they coach to play? As a complete neutral, I have noticed that England do seem to struggle when they are forced to play outside of their structure or what's in front of them, which I find really weird, considering the amount of incredible broken play tries you see from some of these players in the Premiership, how well they play in the Premiership, some of the incredible tries. It just seems really weird to me that they, in the international games, when they do get given those opportunities, they almost seem to just not take them. They just seem to go into their shell, go back into their structure, and it just seems like the natural ability of the team in those broken play areas where like France is really good, Ireland is very good. It just seems like England was really lacking it, where a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, this England team in open play, broken play, were just absolutely incredible and so dangerous, which is why they've won a few Six Nations in the past, 8 years, they've won like 2 or 3, but now they just don't seem at all like a team that can accomplish that in broken play. The tackle success rate has to improve for England going forward. That is a bit of a non-negotiable, which is a very disappointing statistic to see. I mean, traditionally, if you think of England, you think of a team that is going to be extremely sound on defense and just make it really difficult to break through. Even if you think of Borthwick's Tiger team, there's Leicester Tigers team, they had some really traditional style of play about them where they would kick the ball to you and you would not be able to break down their defense. That's how they even won a Premiership title. And that's probably one of the reasons why Borthwick was brought into the team, to be an absolutely sound team when it comes to the fundamentals of the game. But they just seem to be struggling with all of those areas right now. Now, what are some of the noticeable strengths within this England side? So this team didn't just win 12 games in a row being bad, first of all. That they won 12 games in a row at international level against some really good teams. They beat the All Blacks, they beat the Wallabies. They've had some really good games and they played some phenomenal rugby. First of all, if this is England's slump, if this is their slump now, it's probably better for them to get it out the way right now, a year out from a World Cup, rather than it happening to them in the knockout games of a World Cup or within a World Cup. They still have time to figure this out. Right now is probably the perfect time for them to have a slump. I know you don't ever want to have a slump. No team does want to have one. But right now is probably the best time to have that dip in form, to try find a way to get out of it. Because once a team is gaining momentum, it's really difficult to stop that. But if a team is going down, a team with quality players like England can only go so far down before they have to go back up again. And look, England, if you look at the last game, they played really well against France. It's not the end of the world for this England team. They did have a bit of a slump. They were struggling a bit. But luckily, a year out from a World Cup is probably the right time for them to have this, to try figure themselves out and get themselves out of this. So that's the one positive to take from this overall slump that they're in. England were noticeably good in the tackle fight on attack, second in post-contact meters, first for kicks in play and second in kicks retained, which shows that they were really good in the aerial battle. Going forward, if England could become a bit more ruthless and accurate, playing within the chaos and unpredictability of winning their own kicks in the aerial battle, they could be scoring a lot more tries and a lot more points. If you think some other teams, as soon as they win that aerial battle, broken play, other teams on the back foot, they really pounce on it. They really become extremely dangerous. They're almost like a shark in the water when they smell blood. Their eyes go wide like an Ireland or a France or a South Africa. But this England team right now, when they get those opportunities, because clearly they are very good in the aerial battle, they just aren't potent enough. They aren't dangerous enough. They're just not on the same page enough to really thrive in their broken play areas where the opportunities come very quickly, but they also go very quickly. Do I think it's big fixes that needed to be made from England going forward? Honestly, no. I don't think it's big fixes, but minor adjustments and improving in a few key areas could see them return to their form before the next Six Nations. I do really believe that. If they can just fix a few minor things within the team, not everything, they don't have to just scrap their game plan and go back to the drawing board completely. There's just a few minor adjustments within the style they play, within the way that they are playing, within the way they are approaching the game that can really help them going forward. Because I don't think, honestly, the fundamental base of the team is good. They've got that kicking game really nailed down. They've got the aerial battle. They've got a quite good set piece. So they've actually got those things you can build from. I just think it's the other things around that they just are lacking with right now, where they need to make minor improvements in a few areas going forward. All right, time to try answer some of those major key questions right now over England. So first of all, is Steve Borthwick the right guy for the job to lead this England team forward? I believe he is. I honestly do believe he is. I think he's a good coach. I think he's the right coach for this team. Is he maybe not maximizing some of the players in his team? Yes, I do think some of the selections maybe aren't the best, but that's not just him, that's the whole team. I do think this team has a lot to work on, but I do think as a coach, he is probably the right guy to take this team forward. And also, if you do replace a coach a year out from a World Cup, it just never works. It never works. Obviously, with Rassie Erasmus in 2018, that's the rare time where it really did work. But now with this, it just doesn't normally work, and it actually makes the coach that they bring in usually look bad. Like if they say they don't want Gregor Townsend to go to the World Cup for Scotland, if they bring a different coach in, that will probably make the other coach not look as good as what he can do with a whole entire 4-year cycle. I do think Steve Borthwick is the right guy to at least take England to the 2027 World Cup. I do think they are going to go far in that tournament. To be honest, they probably have an easier part than the other teams, which makes it a bit easier for them. I do think they will go far, and I do think it's going to look really good for him in that tournament. But if they decide to get a new coach, I think it should be after the next World Cup. It shouldn't be before the next World Cup, because a year out from a World Cup, there's just so much that you have to do. These coaches already know what players they want to take. They've been building the squad depth. They've been building the experience with some of the players. So it just doesn't make sense to change the coach right now. So to answer that question, I do think Steve Borthwick is the right guy to take this team forward. Did England miss out with their selections? Absolutely, yes, they did. There was a lot of inconsistency with the selection side from England. Look, I'm not saying they chose the wrong team every time. That's not what I'm saying. But if you just took that team that played against Wales in the first game, and you at least gave them another game after the disappointing Scotland game before making a few changes, they would have done a lot better. Just playing the same team and letting them figure out stuff as well throughout the tournament would have really helped. Now I'm pretty sure that the England selectors and coaches aren't really sure who their best players are in any position. But before this, they kind of had a really good idea. But now it's a bit all over the show. They're not sure who's their best number 10 right now. They're not sure who's their best number 9, who's their best loose trio. They're not sure about a lot of things right now. So I do think the selections weren't consistent enough. It also didn't help the players playing alongside guys that they've never played with before. Those inconsistent combinations. It's going to be very difficult to play together for the first time at the highest level of rugby, at international level, in the Six Nations. It's going to be very difficult. All right, so our third question here. What is England's style of play currently? Well, we do know England are a very kick-dominant team, and that's not actually a bad thing. I see a lot of the England fans online. I'm a neutral, so I can comment on this. I see a lot of England fans online saying how the England's kicking the ball away too much and all this and all that. To be honest, those kicks are really creating opportunities for England, but after that, they just don't know what they're doing after that. They don't know how to capitalize on those opportunities because England is really good in the aerial battle. And to be honest, it almost took them to a 2023 World Cup final. They were a few minutes away from making the 2023 World Cup final with a really good kicking game and an emphasis on the kicking game. So the kicking game is not the problem. In fact, I don't even think England kicked the ball away that much more than every other team. They just kick it really well and they have a very good aerial battle, very consistent box kicks, very accurate box kicks, very accurate up and unders as well. So when their kicking game is off, you can see it with the way they play, but I just think England, when it comes to those scraps and that unpredictability of when they do win that kick, when they do win that kick battle, when they do win the aerial battle, the unpredictability of the broken play, they can get a lot better there. England's exact style of play right now, I'm not too sure. I don't know what type of a team they're trying to be. Are they more defense-minded? Are they more attack-minded? Traditionally, they're a more defense-minded team, letting the other team really play a lot more rugby. But when England actually tried to take the game to France in the final game, they looked really good when they tried to play some attacking rugby. Instead of just letting the other team play more rugby and run at them, they looked a lot better. So right now, I'm not sure what their actual style of play is. But I do think they will have to figure it out going into the next year, World Cup next year. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do and what kind of plan they come up with. Because this team has a lot of really good ball players, playmakers, athletes. They can really perform really well in that broken play. And I just think the style of play right now is a bit more defensive, going into their shell a bit more, which doesn't actually suit all of the players in this team. It's not a traditional England side, this, with like a huge forward pack and just really bruising backline players. This team right now has some really exciting pace in the back line, some really mobile, athletic forwards as well. So they actually need to start using them that way. And we saw that in the France game. And the last question, the final question, who are England's best combinations in key positions right now? I'm not even sure the coaches know, but this is just my personal opinion. I do think Alex Mitchell and George Ford are the best number 9-10 combination for England going forward. I do think Ben Spencer should be the 9 on the bench for them. He proved it. He's so accurate with his box kick. His kicking game is phenomenal. He's a very talented player and he can play all over the field. To be honest, he probably could play on the wing if they really needed to, if there was a lot of injuries. So I do think Alex Mitchell and George Ford, I know a lot of people are not going to agree with this. I know George Ford's not really popular with the England fans right now because he had a few poor performances, but he did take England to the 2019 World Cup final as the fly half. He did take them to the semi-final and nearly the final of the 2023 World Cup as the fly half. So he's done it before. He's a very good player at the top level. I do think Finn Smith is the future guy. He has proven himself, but I think after the 2027 World Cup, giving Finn Smith an entire 4-year cycle to really push as the number 10 going forward and build that around him will really suit him. And then they still have Alex Mitchell as well, who knows how to play with Finn Smith. They played together at club level for Northampton Saints. It just makes more sense. But I think right now, George Ford probably is the right guy then for 10 going forward. In the centres, this is a tough one. I think Ollie Lawrence and I do think Henry Slade going forward. It's very tough. Maybe Tommy Freeman as well. Maybe, honestly, the centres is the one thing I don't know for this team. There's a lot of good centres in the England team right now. Tommy Freeman looked really good at 13. Do they play Ollie Lawrence out of position going forward? Possibly. Do they bring in Fraser Dingwall again? To be honest, being a selector for this England team right now must be extremely difficult because there's a lot of quality players, also a few guys injured, so there's not really continuity within the team and the guys playing. So you have to actually keep that in mind as well with this England team and how they played this year. There's been a few injuries. There's been a lot of chop and change in the team. The guys haven't really understood and gotten comfortable playing together, where just give some guys more game time in combinations that they can build them. For me, if I had to choose an ideal loose trio right now to start for England, At number 6, looking at the France game, it probably would be Ollie Chessum. I mean, he's a big guy, he's mobile, he's a very good athlete, he's quick as well, he's good around the park, and he adds a bit of versatility when it comes to line-out time. He can really, he honestly, he does damage in the rucks, he does damage around the field, he's a very hard worker. Sam Underhill at 7. I do like Guy Pepper, but I think Sam Underhill has proven in the World Cup level that he can be a top player, man of the match style player, and a game changer against the big teams of the world. He's a very good tackler. He makes incredible amounts of tackles a game, and he really does grind out that first 60 to 65 minutes. And then obviously Ben Earl at number 8. I think that would be the best loose trio for England right now. Obviously, anything can happen. Obviously, they could choose anyone. Ollie Chessum does work well in the locks, but I do like Alex Coles with Maurice Toge in the locks. I think Alex Coles right now is a starter, a bit of a better starter than he is a better player on the bench. I do think he plays much better starting. Obviously, they have Chandler Cunningham South. They have some other guys as well. George Martin's going to be coming back as well. They've got some really good players that can add more squad depth on the bench. But having Ollie Chessum at number 6 adds a lot of size to this team, and it just adds a different dynamic, which I really did enjoy. And I thought it was going to make the forward pack a bit more slow, a bit more one-dimensional, but it actually added the complete opposite. They just looked like a whole bunch of 8 live wires on the field. They were really physical. They were actually dominating France in patches as well. So a lot of big decisions to be made going forward, but in the centres, I'm not sure who their best combinations are, to be honest. I know Ollie Lawrence, when he is healthy, should be there. Maybe Max Ojama should get a chance. Maybe Ollie Lawrence and Henry Slade going forward. Henry Slade's a phenomenal player. Maybe Ollie Lawrence and Tommy Freeman. That could be a very good option as well. There's a lot of options they still have to try there. But fly half, right now, I do think it should be George Ford with Alex Mitchell at 9. Loose trio. It could be a lot of people, but Ollie Chessum, Sam Underhill, maybe even Tom Curry in that position, and Ben Earl at number 8. They do have a lot of options, but I do think, looking at England right now, the one thing that actually is kind of working for them is the players they're bringing off the bench. I think the players they're bringing off the bench really are adding a lot of value and impact when they come onto the field, and they are comfortable in their role of the bench. So playing them as starters, probably they wouldn't get the best out of them. It's like the South African team and the France team right now. Those players on the bench, they know their role, they're comfortable in their role. Putting them in the starting spots, like for instance a Kwagga Smith, when he starts in for South Africa, he doesn't have the same impact at all that he does off the bench. So I like seeing a Henry Pollock off the bench. I'd like to see a Guy Pepper off the bench. I like seeing these guys coming off the bench. So there's a lot of uncertainty right now about who is the best combinations for England, but that's just my 2 cents on it. But guys, if you did enjoy the content, please don't forget to like and subscribe to help the channel grow, and please don't forget to leave comments down below if you did enjoy it, if you disagree with some of the takes, if you agree, let me know. I love talking about it, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.